Welcome to another biblically based look into today's news from Christian Voice New Zealand. Now here's Mike Bain.
You know, it certainly wasn't the then National Party leader Simon Bridges' finest moment when a recorded private conversation became very public, where he described a member of his own caucus, in this case the West Coast List MP Maureen Pugh, as effing useless. For Bridges, the leak, the lack of discretion, the judgment, the opinion certainly was a wake-up call for him. However, it's somewhat ironic that 6 years later that the same MP, Maureen Pugh, who now serves as the Assistant Speaker of New Zealand's Parliament, has inadvertently done us a favour by giving New Zealand its wake-up call. She's faced criticism from some quarters because she failed to read the room. Instead, she had adhered to the rules of the House recently by closing down a speech given by a member from the public gallery. Now, the man from the iwi of Whakatuhia proceeded to speak ahead of a waiata, which would have been a fitting and approved celebration, following the third reading of the treaty settlement between the Crown and iwi. Now, I'm not going to discuss the rights and wrongs, as it's been thrashed out already in Parliament, the press and iwi. But in the course of shutting down the alleged speech, someone from the gallery called out to Pugh, "Hey, read the room." Indeed, had she done so, to allow it to continue would have been a breach of the rules of behaviour set out in our Parliament standing orders. Now, read the room is an expression which has been around for, well, an exceedingly long time, and both politicians and comedians have been adept at it. Some better than others, I must add. But what does read the room mean? Really, what does read the room actually mean? To answer that, I sought an expert opinion from the most reliable source available. In this case, it was Google. It means to pick up on the subtle non-verbal cues of a group of people. In Parliament that evening, those that were in the gallery, they were in a celebratory frame of mind. But as King Solomon put it, there's a time and a place. This may have been that time, but it certainly wasn't the place. As a society, we have rules, guidelines and laws in place to not only act as a protection, but to set boundaries between what is acceptable and what isn't. When you're a guest in someone's house, it's a done thing to accept the rules of the house, isn't it? A quick example is a church setting. There's a certain reverence and decorum expected from attendees. Likewise on a marae setting, or in this case, Parliament. But the abandonment of rules, whether they're small or large, well, they're fraught with all sorts of dangers. Now, there are some, everyone flaunts the rules every day, don't we? It's just in our nature, but on the whole, society accepts rules, laws, and occasionally we like to break through the boundaries, as every teenager tries to do. But the issue has become not about bumping the boundaries, but breaking through to the other side. Now, if you allow the mood of the room to dictate in society, where they abandon centuries of decorum and allow all-out freedom, the result is anarchy, it's revolution, or another simplistic explanation, mob rules. And haven't we just seen how well that's gone? A good example of the results reading the room can be found in all periods of time, but the most well-known was when the fifth governor of the Roman province of Judea, Pontius Pilate, went against his conscience. Knowing Jesus to be innocent, allowed the room, in this instance the crowd, the mob, whose fervour had been whipped up by Jesus' opponents, to decide his fate. Well, today there's no difference. Instead of Jesus' opponents, we see opinion being whipped up primarily by agitators who believe their rights supersede everybody else's. And instead of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, today's agitators, well, they're those that are in control with the loudest voices, and they're helped and aided and abetted by today's media. You know, we know and accept boundaries. Every society has their own. Break it down, right down to your own self. We all know when we cross the line to the dark side, we feel a little uncomfortable. But one of two things happen. You either feel convicted and make amends, or you start to feel comfortable. It's not so bad. But the next time the boundary is crossed, it's a bigger one. And that little fall, that misstep that we started with, becomes a slippery slope, and, well, just who knows where it's going to lead. Do you know there was a time in history that there was only a moral code society lived by? But then one person's moral code became different to those around them. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? It came to the stage in time where people cried out for, they wanted rules, laws they could live by. Everyone is aware of the 10 Commandments these days. They've heard of them. Hey, but don't feel as though you've basically got to phone a friend to give you an answer as to what they are. What is not widely known was that the receiver, under inspiration of the giver, in this case Moses the receiver and God the giver, wrote what today is called the Mosaic Law, in essence setting out the rules, the rights and the wrongs, the boundaries of society. And the people also in turn asked for judges to administer this law. Now, New Zealand's governance, based on the Westminster system, which is based on the Mosaic Law, stands as a testament to the importance of these rules. Now, if the government of the day were to listen to the room, it merely underscores the danger of abandoning these principles. It would suggest that allowing the loudest voices to dictate societal norms could lead to chaos. Imagine for a moment a country governed by those currently who shout the loudest about colonisation, sovereignty, past wrongs, racial inequality, climate change, individual rights, gender issues, and whatever other toys they find no longer acceptable in the toy box. But what happens to this type of governance when other voices grow louder? Well, let's go back to our reference in Google to read the room as to pick up on the subtle, the non-verbal cues of a group of people. These people are called the silent majority, and therein lies an issue. We all know that the squeaky wheel gets oiled, but when good men say and they do nothing, that's what the result is going to be. What the silent majority does in its action to remain silent is exactly that, silence. Christian writer Dietrich Bonhoeffer summed up in the days when the fascists were gaining power in Germany. He said, "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil." Also in his letter from the Birmingham jail, Martin Luther King said in his silence complicity argument, "We'll have to repent in this generation, not merely for the vitriolic words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people." And if you're to say, "But we knew nothing about this," does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who guards your life know it? Will he not repay everyone according to what they've done? Proverbs 24:12. So reading the subtle nature of the country, just what is the mood of the room of all New Zealanders? The majority, I'm sure, is for this country to agree to disagree and move towards unity, which brings about prosperity. Maureen Pugh, in her role as the Speaker of Parliament, to my mind, in administering the rules of standing orders relating to decency and decorum, should be applauded when faced with opposing voices and opinions. We today are still fortunate where our rules, our society, even our country, our foundation was set upon the Word of God. And for that one reason we should be thankful. But I'm disheartened by the many New Zealanders who understand exactly that, but they choose to remain ignorant or just defiantly refuse to acknowledge the source of moral values and ethics. By doing so, they don't see. They're still blinded by what is happening. Unlike Maureen Pugh, who indeed read not what was in front of her, but had read the rules of her environment. From a cultural perspective, our inability to recognise, comprehend and accept the divinely ordained principles for behaviour, it results in our nation's failure to accurately gauge the societal climate in which we live.